You want to start or scale your property development business to 8 figures and beyond? Then you're in the right place. This is the Property Experts Podcast with Ben Richards and Jack Diggins, two serial entrepreneurs bringing weekly insights from our award-winning businesses. In these podcasts, you'll learn how we found, funded and delivered over £80 million worth of property in the last 6 years, with templates you can use, deal analysis and deep dive discussions that will help you build your businesses successfully. We hope you'll enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday, bank holiday weekend. We may be getting Ben later today, but we might not. He's currently in Mauritius still, and I'm flying solo for the time being. But if you haven't joined us before, thank you for coming over to the channel. We'd love for you to stay and see the valuable content that we're going to be delivering over the course of the next 45 minutes, talking about business and how you can manage and grow your businesses like we've done with our 5 companies. We've grown to multi 6-figure, 7-figure and 8-figure companies from scratch, all in under a decade. So we'd like to pull back the curtain and open up to what we do in our businesses week to week, and also learnings that you can take from mistakes that we've made, but also tips to integrate into sales, marketing, operations, finance, or even growing your team. So thank you very much for joining. And without further ado, we'll get straight into it. I am again managing all of this myself, so you will have to bear with if it's a little bit clunky. I want to make my face a little bit bigger, not that big. That big. So yeah, I'm flying solo. There's actually Ben put a couple of slides in. So I'm speaking on behalf of Ben, which you will see later. So throughout the array of our businesses, our development company is aspiring to deliver 1,000 homes, which is £1 billion worth of property. And we do that with our investors. And if you're listening on a podcast, it's 23rd of May and it's bank holiday weekend. So no excuses and plenty of time for you to be watching this over the weekend. So a bit into agenda and what we'll be talking about. We'll be speaking to competition. Now, there's a big taboo in property and also other businesses to not be speaking to your competition. So I'm going to be delving into that. We'll be talking about mentoring and self-development and how much money you should invest in a mentor or even into your own self-development. What is Class G and have we got an approval? We'll be sharing details about that, which will be on our bank. And again, we'll be talking about the bank and how the strip out is going. We're going to be talking about a game changer for your business. I actually think if you haven't already looked at this product and thought about how it can go into your business, you're already being too slow on this. It's really, really good. And I'll be sharing that. We'll be talking about a podcast where Ben made an appearance on Architectural Social. Really interesting podcast title. I cannot wait to listen to it myself. And then we'll be talking about a listed building consent. Have we got 2 approvals in 1 week? And then last but not least, I'm going to share and screen share of how, just a 5-minute share of the easiest way to find HMO deals that do stack. I'm going to be sharing our top tip on how we've delivered 150 plus HMO bedrooms and showing you how we start to look for that. So a huge tip and top tip. So stay with us to the end. And then, of course, Q&A. If we've got time, we will get round to them. Cool. So kicking off straight away, speaking with your own competition. Now, this was sprung about because Ryan Beaumont, who you guys may know, I record our Ground Up podcast with. He is got some non-exec advisors who are successful business owners, and they actually run a measured surveying and topographical surveying business, which is exactly what we do. They're based up north. We're obviously based in the south. And Ryan said, look, let me link you up and you guys can have a chat and see how you get on. We're very open-minded with our book. Obviously, we're an open book and very open-minded is where I was going with that. And we typically, share what we share online. And we also speak to people that are having similar business hurdles and problems. And we like to sort of communicate with competitors, even though they might not be direct competitors, to see what they're doing. And I always feel it's almost a bit of a shame that they're working really hard, spinning their wheels, building a brand, building a product, learning from their own mistakes. And we're doing the same, but we're both in 2 different locations and that's not shared. So we jumped on a call with these guys. They're a little bit more, I suppose their business is a bit more mature than XP Surveys. They've been doing the business for about sort of 10 to 15 years. They're a little bit larger than us. So they're going through different pains, but know our growth pains. They've also looked at, they have successfully managed to outsource an offshore team, and that's something that we've considered doing. So it was a really open-minded conversation. We've agreed to have a face-to-face catch-up, but I just wanted to sort of share this in here for any business owners. If you can meet up with people that are in a similar business, but aren't directly competing with you, you will gain so much value in just going and appreciating that each other have the same problems or the same mistakes. And that's what, we're coming on to on the next topic, which is like mentors and having business mentors that may have done something similar to you and be guiding you through that. But I feel like if you can speak to a direct business owner and actually share the qualms, and it could even be someone from a different country, it's super beneficial. Even the technical processes and the operations and the standard operating procedures, if you can actually share those ideas with businesses in different areas or regions and help each other, you will get massive value from that. Almost the most relevant direct experience that you have. But anyway, we shared topics. It seems like our business are probably a little bit more advanced in using tech and AI in our operational process and quotation process. And it seems that they're way more advanced in terms of the outsourcing element of their business. So there's things that we can take away from them. There's things that they can take away from us. Who knows where that might go into the future, and we'll have that discussion. But fundamentally, if you have two businesses that have separate operational costs, so the gross profit margin might be great, but the net profit margin is diminished because you haven't got those economies of scales. One thing to think about is how could you gain economies of scale by speaking to your competitor and maybe even joint venturing or sharing notes or sharing a resource. So something that was really cool. We had a really cool chat, and I suppose it's put it out there for you guys to actually communicate with your potential competitors. You guys should be rooting for each other if you're not direct competitors. And that's exactly what we did, and super excited to see where that goes for us. But these are steps that you might want to take in your business, speaking to potential competition, which isn't a taboo in my opinion. We've been asked this a lot. So like mentoring and self-development, how much you should invest in this space. And this isn't coming from me. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can sort of see two things on the screen. And the reason I put these on here is when we have a mentee that comes on board and actually gets mentored by either Ben or myself, we do a questionnaire. And in that questionnaire is how much do they want to invest in their mentoring, and how much do they want to invest in their self-development. The reason that we ask that question is because we know how quickly that person wants to excel, what other learning things that person could potentially take on, but also how serious they are. And this was a response that came back from a mentee that I had a mentee session with this week. And it had written two things, and it was as much as needed and as much as it takes. And I absolutely loved it. I was like, this guy is serious. This guy really wants to grab the bull by the horns, progress himself, progress his business. And we had an amazing one-to-one session where we got a lot of clarity around goals. We built out a strategy on a page for a 5-year plan, and then worked that back to a 1-year plan, which took out then quarterly actions and then monthly actions. And it was a really enjoyable session. And I've never had someone sort of just go, whatever we need to do, we will do that. But I'm trying to quantify it for others. So Ben and I have spent tens and actually over 100,000 on our own education between us. I feel like we're always part of something. Ben's part of a current platform called Property Entrepreneur. I'm actually part of the Developer Club, the Legacy Group. I actually run that group now. But we're always keen on learning and training and skilling up. Obviously, I have the benefit that we have the Ground Up Network. Shout out to Gun. But I actually passively learn through that network too. And it's just amazing that we're spending that capital on learning. And then obviously the joint venture we have with Tyler and Property Ed, again, we're helping just deliver the content, but there's people in there that are serious about growing their property empire, business, whatever it may be. And it just begs the question, like how many business owners are there that don't invest in themselves, in their own capacity? Because Roger Hamilton, who's a billionaire, has a specific phrase, and it's the biggest bottleneck in your business is you. And I love that because I believe that is typically true, whether it's handing off some responsibility, delegating a little bit more, bringing that person in that's a high salary that you don't think you can afford, but actually quickly it pays dividends and helps you grow the business. All of that thought process, or maybe even your own capabilities, even that thought process is something that really needs to be acknowledged and really understood thoroughly. And that is what I believe you gain from self-development, learning, mentoring, etc. A good thing to think about mentoring is it's probably good to invest, up to 1% of your turnover. So if you're running a £300,000 turnover business, it's going to be very different to if you're running a £1 million turnover business. But we've had mentors, business coaches all the way through our journey, and will continue to do so indefinitely. Really, it's really good to have that sounding board, and also the accountability to stop for a second, think about the business, have a third party tell you about what you're doing wrong and right and different, and take that particular stance on it. So I thought that'd be useful to share. Cool. So Class G, we did get approved. I don't know if there's any fancy explosions I can do on here, or some sort of features. Definitely media assets. Have we got any in here? I could probably do one of Ben dancing. Let's see if we could do that. There we go. Ben is here. Who am I kidding? Class G approval. There we go. God, we have some fun, don't we? I don't know how to get rid of him now. Oh God. So our bank in Abingdon, which was an old Halifax, believe it or not, the one that's actually lit up there is not our bank. That's had the HSBC next door. We did try and buy that. We actually bought the building on the right hand side, which is a Halifax. But anyway, it's a listed building. So it's not that straightforward to get Class MA. In actual fact, you can't. So we went through the rickety footbridge of going around Class G. Now, Class G is an application still under permitted development, where you're getting a consent for residential above typically retail / commercial. And we got the approval, which is amazing. So obviously there's an element of, I could assume it's never, Class MA is very simple. If it's an office building that doesn't have the other contentions, it's pretty straightforward. Whereas I feel like this application, there was still an element of doubt. So it was very great to get that over the line, and also to kickstart the real works on this scheme. So we're starting the works in the next few weeks to convert the first 3 flats into HMOs. We have another application going in, which I think might have actually already gone in today or yesterday, for more residential at the flat at the rear. So a super cool site. And next time we do a site up in day, we'll be taking people around the bank. So super exciting. Big one to box off, and keen to get the team moving forwards. And which kindly brings me on to the strip out. So as you can see, it doesn't look like a bank internally anymore. In actual fact, looks very different to a bank. We've obviously gone in pretty ham on the strip out. It's imperative that you do the strip out because a number of 2 reasons. One, you might need it to get an accurate tender pricing and see what you're structurally dealing with. But more importantly for this one, we've actually already pre-sold the ground floor. So we will be selling the ground floor retail and the basement. The buyers are a convenience store, so they're going to be doing whatever they need to do in it, and they wanted a blank canvas to start from. So strip outs, severely commenced, and we'll be getting that derated from business rates. We'll obviously be documenting it and sending it over to the buyers so that they're happy and they know what they're dealing with. We're cracking on with those works. The next phase is going above and addressing the existing resi, and then we will be on to the new conversion. Cool. So if you could, we would love if you could actually subscribe and rate us. We release our episodes Monday morning at 5 a.m. And if you could tune into those, so you can tune into those on Monday mornings. But we'd love to have any feedback as well. You guys ask amazing questions as we do our podcast, and we're massively appreciative for the followers and the listeners. The only reason we do it is for you guys. So massive thanks for that. Cool. The secret and the game changer for your business. Not much of a secret anymore, given they have been on Diary of the CEO. So I actually watched this episode about a week ago, and evidently Ben watched this episode too while he was potentially on his way to Mauritius or in Mauritius, because he's been badgering away and actually using it. So if Ben was here, he would probably give you a little bit more fun around how amazing this Replit company and resources for a business. But I'm going to give it a good stab. So essentially this topic on Diary of the CEO was actually to discuss AI and the changes that are coming on in the world. And we essentially had there's 2 people on this particular podcast. One that's for it, one that is against it. Our big hero, Daniel Priestley, and obviously Stephen Bartlett. The owner of Replit was also, one of the one that's for AI, and obviously the other guy is against it. So a little bit of controversy, but today we're just going to talk to you about Replit and the value of what it can bring to your business. But of course, do go and watch the episode. We're not disencouraging that. And essentially, it's turning the sort of UI and coding parts. So UI is user interface, and coding is obviously the back end of I don't know, websites, apps, technology, processes, whatever it may be. And it's building that all out for you. And it could be website, apps, standard working procedures. You can kind of build your own, Monday board if you wanted to from scratch. And it's basically their motto is turning your ideas into apps. And it's essentially where you verbally tell the AI platform what you want. So you kind of give them the vision, and then they go out and about and essentially build it out for you, which is absolutely nuts. It's kind of like knocking, a lot of the web code developers into touch and going, we don't really need this anymore. AI is doing that job for you. For a business owner, it's making that product that you might find have thrown £15,000 at to now maybe needing like a couple of grand to throw at it, and it making a lot more frictionless availability to be a really interesting business because you've got a new user interface or whatever it may be. So Ben's been badgering away, working on this and using it, and it sounds incredible. And he has actually been building out a client portal for XP surveys. And obviously it's just beta phase and we're just sharing it internally, and there's not too much to it at this stage. But what is really relevant is, could you think of something in your business that you could potentially build and work through? So for an example, I'm really thinking of some ideas now. Let's say you're in acquisitions and you've got all of these deals that you're analyzing, and you grade them out of 10 in location, 10 in how good the deal looks, and various others. You could tell this platform to build you a pipelining tool to enable the deals to go all the way through the pipelining process, almost like a Trello board or a Kanban board. And it could build it for you internally. So you have a bespoke product internally. And the crazy thing is, typically when the word bespoke comes into anything, so, something physical or even tech, the price is normally huge. But in this particular instance, it's allowing you to adapt things to make bespoke software or tools or apps for you. So absolutely love it. I haven't even had a chance to get into the detail of it because I've been super busy this week, but I'm super excited to have a bit of a geek out and actually see how impactful this stuff is, and actually have a look at the platform that Ben's built. Maybe in the next couple of episodes, if anyone's keen, we might actually share what that looks like. So yeah, super cool, crazy stuff. The world is changing, so either go with it or drown is the motto. Another podcast you should listen to is Ben, and actually I read this tagline and it just made me laugh. But yeah, I'm super excited to listen to it. So the tagline, the headlines for this podcast that Ben recorded with Arch Social, which I'm guessing is kind of like architecture social. Good guess, Jack. Nice, strong knowledge. The title was "Why Most Architects Shouldn't Be Developers, But Some Should," featuring Ben Richards. So, essentially, this is saying, and Ben says this all the time, the aspiration for architects is typically an architect might pick up an instruction to take something through planning. Whether they then do get or don't get the detailed design process as well, they might go through to the point of delivery and post that, but most might actually just be doing planning applications. And you don't really get to see the real stuff come together. So I believe that it's a huge aspiration for architects to move into development, to be like stamp on a building. That's my own building. I did the design and I did the delivery. But what Ben says, and I completely agree with, is it's really difficult. There's so much to do in terms of a mass of property. All the time people, I've actually had lenders, bank lenders come to me and say, what do you think of this developer? They've got really good project management experience. And I go, that's all well and good, and you're probably in safe hands in delivery, but there's so much that goes beyond that. As far as the loan to values, the lending, the drawdowns, the risk, the security, the structure, the tax, the materials, the sales process, how you get something. An architect might draw something that's sexy, but the numbers might not work, or we might not be able to sell it. So yeah, there's so much more that goes to it. So I completely agree. It's a very, very difficult industry, and actually, I feel like that should be rephased if it wasn't targeted at the architectural podcast, and why most people shouldn't be developers, but some should. It's not for the faint-hearted, and we're not saying that to shout about how good we are. It's fucking hard work, and we wish it was easier. But there you go, little rant over. Go and listen to that podcast. Cool. 2 applications in 1 week. Have we or haven't we? So this is a lovely little grade 2 listed cottage that Central Suites bought about 4 or 5 months ago. And essentially we submitted a listed building application to actually remodify the front of the building. You might actually notice that none of it is actually that symmetrical from the timber structures. Also, where the paint that had been painted on the building, it wasn't a permeable paint or a breathable paint, so it was rotting some of the timbers. The joys that we were just saying how difficult this world is. But anyway, so we have to do a lot of essentially taking apart the front of the building and put it back together, I suppose, as well as modernisation of the building, completely new windows throughout, and then we're going to sell it on. So this is a flip. And the amazing news, and let me get the figurine of Ben up again because I like him dancing, is we also got listed building consent. And Ben is back. Look, he's enjoying his holiday and the application. So major news. We're really, really pleased. We essentially got full list of building consents to do all the changes that we need. Weirdly, it's not even really like actually changing the building much. It's kind of just rebuilding it. But Heritage are really particular, is what I was going to say there. And they would like to see exactly what you're doing, the almost like orchestrating the exact details throughout the whole building, which is really difficult. Because what I love about non-listed buildings now I've done quite a few listed buildings, is if I want to move a wall, I just do it, because a lot of what you do internally in a property, you don't need planning consent if it's not listed. But with a listed building, you literally can't deviate from the plan set up from day one. It's an absolute ball ache. So super painful, and actually that comes at a cost and delays, and actually contractors like to charge a little bit more if it's listed as well. But so we bought this late, very late, early November, December. We're hopefully going to be launching this on the market in a few months. Contractors already cracking on with various works that we didn't need listed building consent for, like upgrading the timber, putting soakways in the dormers, rip the kitchen out, blah, blah, blah. But we've got some really nice designs to take this existing 3-bedroom cottage. It's quite a big one. It's almost 2,000 square feet, I think, and spend a small fortune on it, really modernising it and giving it a modern feel, but traditional, obviously, inside. To what was a really old cottage. Cool fact about it, it's actually got some sort of Roman like burial something in the back garden, which we're not changing, but yeah, and it actually overlooks the Dorchester Abbey. So really cool location, really nice building. A lot of headaches with it, but we're excited to really get cracking with it now, which is all good. Oh, it's one too far. Cool. So last but not least, I'm going to show essentially one of my mentees this week. Had a busy week with mentees, had 4 sessions. Asked me, how do I find a HMO? And I was like, yeah, I mean, where'd you start? There's a lot that needs to go into this. So if you were to watch a few episodes ago, in actual fact, I can probably dig it out and put in the comment section. We actually do location analysis. So we'll get a spreadsheet. We're taking all of the reality of what we need to know from a HMO perspective in terms of market improvements, how many people are looking, i.e. saturation, pound per square foot, yield against pound per square foot. We do all this matter of research in 10 maybe 20 locations to compare what location we would like to grow a HMO portfolio in. This step is, once you've picked your location, how to find a HMO. It's a little bit of a top tip and actually how quickly you can find HMOs if you use this technique. I'm going to re-share a different tab, so hopefully now you will see Rightmove. I don't know why, but I selected Reigate. One, because I didn't want to do any areas that we operate in, just in case I found a worldie and then you guys got good ideas and started competing with us in our areas. And just because it's a place that's fairly local, so I know it fairly well. So If you're listening and you want to do HMOs and you don't know where, you've picked your location, because location is really, really important. That should be quite a thorough decision-making process with a lot of data driving that. And we've shared that before. And if you haven't seen that episode, I'll whack a reference of it into the comment section if you just maybe comment location analysis. But if you have seen that episode, this is kind of the next step. And I just wanted to show you how we quickly find them, because my mentee kind of knows where he wants to operate. He said he's stacking loads of deals, but they're not working. So I thought I'd show you my little hack of how to find them. It's super simple, quite effective. And actually, while I was doing that mentoring call, the first deal that I stopped to analyze, obviously I did a bit of educational stuff, which I'll do on this, but the first one I actually stopped to analyze worked. So boom, offer out. Let's get that deal. Let's get going. Let's be HMO landlords. So I picked Surrey just as a random place. So you obviously want to click properties that are for sale. Now, to take this step further, I'm actually going to click the next search because it gives me more options to filter in here than it did on that previous one. So essentially, we're not going to be buying multi-million-pound houses and converting them to HMOs in Reigate, purely because that would never work. Weirdly, I can see that Reigate's sort of central hub is obviously around Reigate here. I kind of don't feel that a HMO down in this location, if you can see my cursor, would be a great idea. Sorry, podcast listeners, you're going to have to kind of bear with. And actually, you'll see my sponsored ad there is an air hockey table, which is cool. So essentially, I want to restrict this sort of location. So what I'm going to actually do is maybe have a look where I could get maybe something a little bit more refined. That kind of feels about, actually, in actual fact, I actually kind of feel like the initial radius was best, which I'm going to go back to. Bear with. Nice. Never do live TV with animals or children. Cool. So I've now got search on Reigate. I'm going to leave that area and the criteria it is. So simple search. This is what we do. We get minimum of 3 beds, because realistically, if it's a 2-bed property, it's probably not going to be a good HMO. I'm going to remove new homes, retirement homes, buying schemes, and I'm going to leave auction properties because I like auction properties. So it's basically removing what I believe is the sort of 3. Obviously, you can't do a part ownership nonsense. You don't want to do a retirement HMO because they don't exist, and you ideally probably don't want to be buying a new build home. I haven't seen many developers make that work. So we're back in the game. Done. We've done a search. Now, next thing I do is lowest price first. I also quite like oldest listed, but let's just run with lowest first. Now, things that I'm looking for. So this is a hack for like quick looking. Yeah, get in there and find some stuff quickly. Now, what I like to look for is in Reigate, you might have, obviously Reigate is like screaming out like Surrey. You've got ex-council properties in probably suburbs. You've got some nice semi-detached houses that actually looks really cheap for Reigate. You've probably got shitty old bungalows, and then you've got some more semis. Typically, annoyingly, this is probably quite a bad example, because what I like looking at is you'll normally get an array of terraced houses in locations that I operate in, certainly. And a lot of these terrace houses aren't actually wide enough to create a HMO. I can't see an example here, but what I mean by wide enough is you get the standard front entrance. It's probably 3.5 to 4 meters wide, and you can't really get the access into the building to get additional rooms on the ground floor, first floor, and second floor, and maybe even loft. So I kind of discount those non-wide ones straight away. Obviously, the beauty of looking in Surrey is a lot of them are actually wider terraced houses. So these might work. So I'm going to open up one of those. And now what you will also see is there's actually a lot of similar properties. You know, a lot of these are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this property, because I'm going to set a rule of thumb. I'm going to have a look at the floor plan and see if I think it would work. And I can already tell you no. So really quickly, you obviously need windows for bedrooms. You also need an adequate kitchen living space to accommodate for shared living. This has got a really low pitched roof, so you're not going to be able to do a loft conversion. The only way that this is going to be a HMO is if you do a single story rear extension. And I kind of think that you're probably getting into price cost expenditure that won't warrant the GDV value at the tail end. So let's just humor ourselves. One bedroom up here, another bedroom here. You might be able to pinch some of this bedroom here to create a third bedroom on this landing. So that's 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. You're only going to get 1 bedroom on this ground floor unless you extend it out the rear. So let's say 2 if you do extend it. That's only a 5 bed. And I think the capital expenditure you're going to put into doing this doesn't warrant that value. So already poo-poo, that's a no. So I can then go back to my search and I can discount most of these properties like this. You will get some anomalies, maybe ones that have already been extended or already, got space for X, Y, and Z, but that makes life a lot quicker and easier to analyze these HMOs. So now let's move on to potentially some bigger things like this particular property. I like the look of it. It looks like a 1930s property, and again, you're kind of setting a rule of thumb for yourself. So you might see a lot of these types of properties that are potentially convertible. Now, one huge benefit you can see of this property is it could be extended to the side. It's obviously really disgusting and old internally. And actually this view is quite good. So you could see how you could potentially extend this to the side. Maybe there's precedent, you can have a look around. I would also assume that you could probably do a loft conversion. When I say assume, I know you can, because this bugger next door has already done one. So lovely stuff, set precedent, very good. So now looking at the exact floor plan, it's quite small. It's only 886 square feet. But what I'm looking at is divisible bedrooms. It's a bit squarer than the last property we were looking at. So I like to see that. And it's, probably got a little bit more scope. But again, we're only looking at 5 bedrooms. So problemo, you're probably going to struggle to generate the value because you've got to push out and do a bit of new build to essentially see if you can, convert this into a 6-bedroom HMO. I kind of believe that if you're not getting over 5 beds, you're probably going to struggle to get the reval up on that. So easy loft conversion on this one. You could do a large strip dormer around the back. You could even potentially do one on the side. That loft conversion, if you've got a main contractor on site in Surrey, may cost you about 40 grand, but you probably get it back, high pound per square foot values. So what are we looking at here? We've got 3 bedrooms on this landing, maybe 2 separate bathrooms. They're already kind of catered for that. If you split it into 2 shower rooms, I'd probably remove this wall to make a kitchen living space. Obviously have this as a bedroom with an ensuite downstairs, and then maybe you'll get 2 in the loft. So they, bam, bish bash bosh, 6-bedroom HMO. I like the style. That is potentially a goer. You guys with me? You following me? Another things that I like to look for. So I would sort of say this one looks like the first ones that we're looking at, similar pitch, similar square box house. I'd discount that. Another things that I like looking for. One is apartments. A lot of people don't like looking at apartments. Obviously, you have to have a look at the head lease. But I often find some really large apartments, like 3 beds like these ones, might actually be valued as a 2-bed. So good ones to look at. Also, your construction costs are really low because you're not doing anything structural. It's all on one foot plate. And even though it might be under 5 bedrooms, you might get a really good income off the back of that. So looking at this particular one, it looks like it doesn't need a lot of work at all, showing you the insides here. But that might make, if you could really push the boundaries, you might be able to squeeze another bedroom in here. You've obviously got to think about fire and access, which is a really important one. You've got to make sure you've got a 30-minute protection route for all tenants to exit in HMOs. We do that regardless whether it's a licensable HMO or not. But yeah, don't discount flats. I do quite like flats too. Oh, bugger, I've just realized I wasn't even sharing the right tab. As you can see, everything I was just discussing is about this floor plan. So sorry if you were just looking at a Rightmove link rather than actually the quality. So yeah, not a bad flat, really large space, 1,000 square feet. We've actually got 5-bedroom apartments. 5-bedroom apartments that we've 5-bedroom houses that are actually 1,000 square feet, so huge flat, and definitely scope to potentially do that. But again, check the head lease because you might be restricted to things like that. Now, other things that we really like looking at is houses with terrible gardens or terrible access like parking are really good things to be looking at. So that's another example of compromised properties. But essentially, use your head. You could obviously do a really nice single-story side extension on this. Looks like it's potentially got also scope to have a loft conversion, and then just looking at the floor plans, a bit of a weird layout at the rear of the kitchen. It obviously doesn't have ideal kitchen garden access, but again, looking at that floor plan, which is really important. So I hope that has been useful. just a bit of a round robin of what we look for as far as HMO properties go. I don't know if there's any more examples that I could quickly show. So if there's some top tips to take away, skinny terrace houses, you might struggle. If it's already got a loft conversion, that's really, really, really good because it's saving you some capital expenditure that might not already be realized in the property value. I would also say that properties with terrible gardens are really good because families will pay less for those. Therefore, the market value for those properties is typically compromised. We've actually got some fairly modern townhouses like this one that's on the screen at the moment. We find that they're huge. We've actually got a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom, and only spent about 60k on the conversion. So these ones can work quite well, but you've obviously got to look at the values. And I would say that obviously garages that can be converted quite easily are pretty good. And the way that we convert garages and HMO conversions is we convert the garage first. We normally get consent for that. And don't put our details on the application. We normally put the planning consultant or the architects. And then what we do is we then go for the change of use C3 to C4. So you're not drawing attention to C4 change of use until you've delivered the planning on the garage. Another little hack there for you guys, which is all good. What other top tips have we got on these types of properties? I think that's pretty much it. So loft conversion is good, compromised gardens good. Here's an example of a terraced house. So when you're looking at terraced house, I always like looking at the thickness, and I can already tell this one's not as thin as average ones. This would actually make a really good HMO. Really small garden. Seems quite expensive though, but you can actually see from those floor plans, your build costs are not going to be eye-wateringly high. You'll probably actually do quite well to deliver that as potentially a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom. But anyway, I hope that was useful. That is actually, I believe, let me have a quick look, share this tab instead, the last but not least of the slides. I hope you enjoyed today's session just with myself. But last but not least, we do have a question, which is good. So question is, hi XP, loving the value from your content. It's brilliant. So please keep doing it. Question is, on your capital raising, do you effectively raise the full capital stack, equity and debt externally, just paying the soft cost yourselves, or do you put some money in equity in yourself? I actually had an investor ask me this the other day. I mean, it kind of varies. We've had deals where we've put capital in. We've had deals where the soft costs are really significant by the time that we get to the point of exchange or needing funds in. But typically, XP will fund the soft costs up to a point where a deal is investable. When the deal is investable, our investor then comes in and either shares the load, completely takes the load and puts the funds in, or if it's maybe the early deals or the first deals, we might negotiate to put some skin in the game. But what we always remind our investors are, for us to put resource and also guarantee the debt is kind of more valuable in our opinion than just putting some skin in the game. If we could not sign PGs and we could not get our team to put resource into projects for a few years, granted, we'd probably have to put some skin in the game. But skin in the game can come in a number of forms, and that's just to say that it's not just cash on the table that makes us committed to our projects. If we have a project that runs for 3 years and it costs us our whole team working on that for 3 years, that's a huge resource. So something to consider, but also it is nice to sometimes be able to say to an investor, look, we'll put some capital in so you get comfortable. So it varies on every project, but if we can, ideally they put in all the capital and we just get on with delivering it. Cool beans. Well, that is me over for this week. I hope everyone has a lovely bank holiday weekend. We've got 2 podcasts to look at. You've got to watch the Diary CEO. You've obviously got to watch this, and you've also got to watch Ben's interview as well. I hope that was useful on the HMO finding hacks. Is how we start looking in new locations, and to start to, once we obviously look through some potential ones, we then deal analyze them, and then we then go into a spreadsheet to push the best possible prospect, I suppose, in the right direction. And yeah, I think that's it from me. Ben hasn't been able to tune in. Hopefully he's had a lovely dinner, and we will see him next week. So without further ado, we'll catch you next week, and keep the questions coming. Even if you ask questions after this episode is finished, we will still answer them either online in the chat the comments box, or we'll answer them next week. So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in, and see you all next week.